Okey, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you, my dear students? I hope you had a great week last week, and I hope you have started working on the assignments. I have seen that you have had your groups now, and for those who haven't any group yet, please make sure that you are in the group and you can start working in the group uh, to conduct the webinar, record the webinar and share with me. Yeah. Um, if you do not know how to share uh, the recorded webinar, yeah, why don't one of you in the group, maybe the repertoire, can help to open up a YouTube account and upload the webinar on the YouTube account and then share the link with me. Yeah? When you do the submission, you send only the link to me so I can just watch from the webinar. It is how do I say it will not take so much space in your Gmail, because I think if you are sending it through Gmail, it will be taking much uh, what we call that space, and also we need that to be sent on the Google Classroom. So I have records of our communication. Yeah? I need this record of communication as evidence for the teaching audit. Every year we have teaching audit whereby all the resources that I'm using for teaching and learning, for assessment, yeah, even attendance will be compiled and will be presented at the auditor. Yes, so your lecturers are audited, yeah, in terms of the teachings and preparations. Yeah. All right. So I trust that you are okay with the assignments, the group assignments. I hope you do not face difficulties. Internet connection, data, so on and so forth. If you have any problems, please do tell me, and I'll see what I can do to help you. Yeah. Um, okay, and the writing assignments, just don't forget that because we are approaching the 7th week of the semester. This week is the 4th week of the semester, so you are left with another 3 weeks. I think I have made it that the deadline of the submission is before the 7th or maybe the 8th week of the semester, because I wanted to mark the assignment just before the mid-break. So right after the mid-break, I can return the assignment to all of you. Last semester was a bad semester for me because when we had the NCO, we were left with only 8 weeks. So if you can still remember, we were left with only 8 weeks, and all lecturers were instructed not to conduct assessment during the first two dry run week. The first 2 weeks when we started again during the MCO, all lecturers were given the instructions not to conduct assessment, tests, so on and so forth. So we were left with 6 weeks to juggle with finishing the course outline, assessment, yeah, and test, yeah. And then we were also demanded to submit the marks before the exam period. So if you see, we had only 6 weeks to catch up with everything. Yeah. It was, I think, not only the lecturers lah. I understand very well. The students were also experiencing a lot of problems. Um, but I think the UC was trying very hard to what we call that, to strike a balance, yeah, between the demands for teaching and learning, as well as considering the restrictions the students are facing. Yeah. But the lecturers were actually uh, pressurized lah, to do our job very well. So I hope all of you notice that and appreciate the effort that we have invested in teaching you people. Yeah? And hopefully that does not deter you from also taking your study seriously lah. Yeah? Because you will graduate and you need these inputs during your undergraduate time to help you to mature as a good worker. Alright, after your graduation, this is one. And secondly, of course, to help you to become a human being. Yeah, to become a human being, because knowledge helps us to become a human being. Alright? Okay, so I assume that you have watched my uh, video clip, even though I know that it is a boring one, yeah, but I can't help it. You have to watch it because it is related to something that is central to your CGPA, yeah, and your learning. And I assume that today I will be listening to questions and I will try to address your questions. And I hope also to start talking about the first trends, the first trends of religious pluralism a little bit. Uh, and hopefully next class I will be able to finish the slides on secular humanism, the first trend. Alright, I remembered that in the last discussion, I discussed on the historical development of religious pluralism, right? Yeah. And I did not underscore the fact that the historical development uh, also overlapping with one of the aspects of which I will stress in religious pluralism, which is the cause or the reason for the emergence of this philosophy. Yeah? Which means that you will find one of the reasons that bring religious pluralism is actually the history of Christianity herself. Maybe you can recall what I have explained with regard to the role of Saint Paul. Yeah? The second Jesus, the role of the Catholic Church, and the position of the Orthodox Church, the position of the Protestant Church towards other religions. Ya. Remember tak? Boleh ingat ya? Yeah, I have mentioned two important uh, two important doctrines in Catholicism and in Protestantism. Yeah, that represent the position of the Catholic Church and the Protestant churches towards other religions. What are those two doctrines? Hi, everybody. Are you here or you are on your bed? What are those two doctrines? If you are too shy to say anything, could you please write something in the chat box so I know that you are there? Not only that your pictures are here. Shazwan, help me please. I hope you have a coffee next to you. Oh, kesiannya your microphone isn't working. It's okay. Okay. Alhamdulillah, it's okay. Can you help to answer my question just now? What were the two doctrines? This is essential, yeah? These two doctrines are essential. Presenting the cause for the emergence of religious pluralism. What were the two doctrines for the Catholic Church? But this Latin formulated in Latin phrases or Latin phrase. Right? Tak ingat? No one remember? Ni apa hal ni? Makan semut banyak sangat ke? but someone help to rescue.
Extra
That's why.
excelesia nulla salus.
Thank you, Basira. Extra ecclesiam salus. Yeah? No salvation outside the church. And for the Protestant churches,
Five solas. Five solas.
the five solas. Thank you so much. Yes. Five solas. These are sola fide, sola gratia, solus Christus, soli Deo gloria, and what else? Sola scriptura. Yeah. So these were actually internal reason. This is what I am up to. Yeah? The internal reason for the emergence or for the formulation of religious pluralism. We are going to go back to this course when we discuss John Haidt later on, the father of religious pluralism. But at this point, it is enough for all of you to remember that these two doctrines represent the exclusive position in Catholicism, in Protestantism, or in Christianity, and trigger for the formulation of religious pluralism. And also, remember that when we discuss about the definition of religious pluralism, we have also discussed the other two terms, exclusivism, and the other term is what? Inclusivism, right? Inclusivism. So, inclusivism is also another internal reason, yeah, for the emergence of religious pluralism. Well, from the very beginning, the Christianity in general, or Catholicism, I would say, to be accurately speaking, you know, uh, uphold the exclusive position, towards other religions. All religions are condemned, um, and if if people want to find salvation, they can only find it in the church, or with the church. Um, but then there was a point when one Catholic priest, Catholic priest, started to review this position. And this happened, this only happened after 15, after 19 minus 3 is 16th century. After 1600 century years, somebody from the Catholic Church started to confronted the Catholic Church, saying that we should review this position, that Catholicism should no longer adopt this exclusive position towards other religion. And in 1965, there was a very important turning point for the Catholic Church during a meeting or gathering, very significant meeting, ijtima kind of thing, for the Catholic Church. That ijtima is called the Second Vatican Council. The Second Vatican Council in 1965. Um, One of the priests by the name of Hans Kung, Hans Kung, uh, we managed to convince the Catholic Church, managed to convince Pope John Paul, uh, the Pope at that time, to tone down the position. Yeah. So they collected the opinions or endorsed the opinion of the Catholic Church in a document, in a document called Nostra Aetate. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this rightly, but that's how it sounds when I check with the uh, Google pronunciation, because it is in Latin. Nostra Aetate is a document that talks about the relationship between Christianity and other religions. So you can check on the website what are the full contents of this Nostra Aetate. To summarize, Nostra Aetate revised the way Catholicism perceived her relationship with other religions. In the past, uh, Catholicism take a very strict position condemning other religions. Yeah? But then, with Nostra Aetate, the Catholic Church reviewed the position. So, to review the position with the Judaism, yeah, with the Jews, with Judaism, one of the most alarming statements made in that document is that the Catholic Church recognized or acknowledged that the death of Jesus is partly due to the uh, problems within the disciples of Jesus as well, because they did not come forward to defend him. Like, the Jews should not be blamed alone for the crucifixion of Jesus, because the, the Christians were also responsible for not coming to front to defend him. It was something like that, that the Jews were not supposed to be blamed, or to the only people to be blamed in the story of, or in what happened to Jesus. Yeah, and that the current Christians or the current Catholic should not hold the past grudges to judge the current Jews, because the current Jews have nothing to do whatsoever with what happened in the past. It was the mistake of the Jews in the past that should not be burdened on the present Jews. Do you understand me or not? Yeah. So this is very interesting, because if you study the history of Christianity and Judaism, you will find that both these two religions had a very stringent and hostile relationship since the very first of the emergence of Christianity. Yeah. During the time of Christianity, during the time of Jesus, we know that Jesus challenged the status quo of the Jewish rabbis, the Jewish leaders. It will be very interesting to know this story, because you will find it uh, quite uh, interesting to find the reason why the Jewish rabbis, the Jewish leaders, rejected Jesus, because Jesus was also a Jew. Okay, this is a historical fact. So everybody, Jesus, according to the biblical sources, was a Jew, and he followed the religion of Judaism. He followed the Torah. He read Torah, and he went to synagogue. So he was a Jew. But then he brought a new sort of a new teaching or new understanding of Judaism that made the Jewish leaders uncomfortable, because they thought that he was challenging their status quo. Alright? And you also learn from the Bible that the Bible depicted the idea that the Jews were the one who conspired against him, right? Against Jesus, to the extent that Jesus was crucified. So that was the context of relationship before Christianity became Christianity of today. And what happened after Jesus, the so-called Jesus, was crucified? We know that, you know, uh, Saint Paul were trying to uh, disseminate the new teaching, the new revelation, the New Testament to the Jews. He went to Asia Minor, he went to see the Jews. I mean, he was continuing to do the missionary uh, of Jesus, and he was rejected to the extent that he was like stoned. He was stoned by the people. Yeah. But then, because the way he he was presented in the Bible, that was a very determined missionary. he managed to convince a number of Jews to follow his teaching. In the Acts of Apostle, if you check in the Bible, after this class, you go to the Acts of Apostle, one of the chapter in the Bible, you will find that Saint Paul had, how do you say, had a meeting, a shura, a shura with the disciples of Jesus. Yeah. Um so that was the first meeting between Saint Paul and the disciple of Jesus. I mean, they were discussing about how do we go about continuing this message. And Saint Paul convinced that if you want this message to get across, to become a global message, to become a universal message, you have to tone down some of the laws. The two laws that were compromised by Paul was the dietary law and the circumcision. And this is very much the New Testament brought by Saint Paul. Some of the Jesus disciples were not happy with this and they asked to be parted from Saint Paul. And what happened after that was all the history of Christianity that we receive today or that we learn today were the version of Saint Paul, not the other Jewish version who choose to depart from Saint Paul. Interesting, right? And then you see that the whole history of Christianity after Saint Paul, especially after 325 CE, when Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire, were also not very positive in terms of the relationship between the Catholic Church and the Jews, because the state who has succumbed to the official religion of Catholicism said that there shouldn't be any other religious belief practice within the empire, only Catholicism, and only the credential statements endorsed by the state. Therefore, some of the so-called Christians, yeah, who wanted to restore the so-called Jewish understanding of Christianity, including monotheism, yeah, were rejected. Not only were rejected, they were excommunicated, they were also killed. Yeah. So the state waged war against those who reluctant to subscribe to the uh, Roman Church creeds, yeah, and regarded them as what do you call that? Someone who challenged the state's decision and they were killed. So one of the famous history was about Saint Arius. Yeah? Saint Arius versus Saint Athanasius, because Saint Athanasius managed to convince the Nicene Creed to succumb to the idea of Trinity, yeah, make Trinitarian a state ideology, but Saint Arius disagreed with this because he wanted Christianity to resume to monotheism, not to Trinitarianism. So, Saint Arius were caught and were killed. Yeah. And so what I'm trying to relate here, there was not a good relationship. There wasn't a good relationship between Catholicism and Judaism throughout the history. And also it was not a good story between Catholicism and Islam as well, as you have learned about uh, the Crusades that extended from the 12th century to 15th, 16th century. Yeah. So you see, the position of Catholicism, Christianity during the earlier period of Middle Ages was not a very good one. And going back to the 19th century, 20th century, 1965, yeah, Hanscom started to recognize this. And for the first time in the Christian history that Hanscom started to bring back to the golden history of Jesus by stating that Jesus was a Jew. Never in the Christian history, before Vatican Council, that the Christians would subscribe to this understanding that Jesus was a Jew. Yeah, but Haskell made it in 1965 and managed to convince the Catholic Church to take into new position, which is what? Inclusivism. Inclusivism in the sense that, Catholicism recognized, in that case, Judaism is uh, is partially true. Remember the definition is partially true. And in that Nusra Atika recognized that the current Jews should not be blamed, yeah, because of what the past Jews have been doing. And also the Nusra Atika discussed about its relationship or her relationship with Islam. The Nusra Atika recognized that it, Islam and Catholicism has commonalities, have commonalities in terms of the prophets that we believe in terms of the doctrine that we subscribe with regard to God, monotheism, we believe in a single God, and the Catholics also believe that they believe in single God, even though they promote the idea of Trinitarianism, three in one, one in three, and also, the prophet, and also the values that Muslims promote were more or less similar values adopted or embraced by the Catholics. So it does not stop only to Islam. Okay, Nusrat al-Fateh also spell out her relationship with Buddhism, with Hinduism, and religions other than the two. Yeah? Why? Because Catholicism believe that they are good things, especially with regard to virtues. Hmm? Good, the concept of goodness in other religions, in terms of ethics, in terms of values. That the Catholic Church accepted that Buddhism, Hinduism, and other religions of that similar trait also teach people about good values. Alright, so this mark the new position subscribed by the Catholic Church, which is inclusivism. Yeah, I repeat the definition that we have discussed last week. Yeah, that all religions are partially true. Yeah, and uh, the religion that once embraced is the only true religion. So this is how at least Hans Kuhn look at it. Yeah. Other religions are partially true, but Catholicism holds the one and only truth, or the whole truth. Alright? So you see, this is internal reason that bring about religious pluralism in Christianity. Because at least if you look into this, you find the progression from exclusivism to inclusivism, and finally at the end of the 20th century, religious pluralism. And this happened because there is a specific doctrine within Catholicism that make it important for the Christians to review and change their position. Now, with regard to Protestantism, you will be surprised to learn that it was very late for the Protestant to take a more or to share the liberal position exhibited by the Catholic Church. Yeah? And the Protestant churches somehow in 1971 uh, started to resume into this openness when they first initiated dialogue with other religions. So in comparison to the Catholic Church who used the church as a platform to make changes, to the Christians, the Catholics at large, but the Protestant churches use the means of interreligious dialogue, yeah, to exhibit their changing position, yeah, from exclusivism to a more inclusive or a more pluralist approach, not even inclusive, yeah, a more pluralist approach, yeah. Because if you will be surprised to learn that in comparison to the Catholic Church, yeah, Protestant churches are more exclusive. Yeah, you can read this in Hanscom work title No Other Name. Yeah, because Hanscom criticized the Protestant churches in a very straightforward manner, saying that the Protestant churches are more exclusive than the Catholic churches. Yeah. Alright, so that is with regard to the internal reason Catholicism and Protestantism, and especially also Orthodox Church. Why I, said so? Because you will find that Orthodox Church have been very, very exclusive since day one they were around. Why? Because they inherit the Jewish um, characteristics in understanding religion. What do I mean by the Jewish characteristics in understanding religion? You see, in Judaism, they believe that only the Jews were liable for salvation, isn't it? And as a matter of fact, to be a Jew is not by choice; it is by faith. And your Jewishness is determined not by your father, but your mother. So it's more stringent and more exclusive in comparison to Catholicism, because at least in Catholicism you can be a Catholic if you profess Catholicism or if you become a Christian, right? Just acknowledge that Jesus Christ died on the cross, and baptized, and that's it. You are a Catholic and you will deserve salvation. But in Judaism, there is no way. Too bad if you are not a born Jew from a Jewish mother, uh, you will not be saved. Sorry, there is no mercy lah. It's a very exclusive position which have been inherited by some of the Orthodox churches. Um, you maybe have heard of the story of genocides of the Muslims in the Balkans countries. Yeah, this is partly the reason. Yeah, because of this very stringent idea about exclusivism in religion. So they inherit this character because, of course, politically speaking, yeah, they wanted to maintain the status quo in religion. What do I mean by status quo in religion? Yeah. The power struggle, right? Yeah, the power struggle. Like if you have this sense of authority, people listen to you, yeah, and people follow whatever instruction that comes from you. So, from the perspective of the Orthodox church leaders, they believe that they should be given the status quo because they were the one who inherit the teachings of Jesus, the first-hand teachings of Jesus, the so-called Salafus Salih, huh? the, 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 the disciples of the disciples of Jesus, because the Orthodox Church, they were centralized in Palestine, yeah, in Jerusalem, the place where Jesus Christ was birth and raised and communicated his teaching. Yeah? And bear in mind that they were speaking Hebrew. Yeah? Hebrew. They were Hebrew speaking people. And Jesus Christ, at that point of time, the classical Hebrew is called Aramaic. Yeah? Aramaic. Yeah? So they spoke Aramaic, yeah? The language spoken by Jesus. So they believe that they were the trustees of the teaching of Jesus. They understand the teaching very well. Yeah? But then when they were influence from the Greek, yeah, influence from the Roman, yeah, and especially when um, Paul managed to disseminate the teaching to the Greeks, to the Roman Empire, yeah, uh, Paul himself was a fanatic. Yeah, someone was so impressed with the Greeks philosophy, managed to convince a number of Romans, Greeks to become Christian. So this status quo was challenged. This status quo was challenged, and it happened in the history that in 325 CE, after a series of struggle, uh, the leadership changed to the Roman, and the language of the Christian changed, yeah, from the so-called Aramaic to at first Greek, yeah, at first Greek from Aramaic to Greek language, yeah, because the Greeks were the learned people. They love to learn, unlike the Romans, because the Roman they were fighters, they were soldiers. I mean, the social structure at that point of time was like that. The Greeks were the learned people, whereas the Romans were the fighter, were the army. But then it was later on when the Roman become Greek civilization, yeah, and uh, the use of the Latin language became the language of Christianity. Yeah? That happens in 3 to 5 CE onwards, and that answers why Latin were used greatly by the Catholic Church. Alright, so these two reasons, this reason about exclusivism. And another reason deliberated by Hans Kern, by Leonard Swindler, by James B. Wiggins in their works were actually the acts of missionary in Christianity. Yeah. So missionaries have been uh, administered by the Catholic Church as early as in the in the time of Paul, and then in the time of who is this Pope during the 11th century. I cannot recall his name. Yeah, but they have had missionary activities as early as in the 11th century when they continue the missionary of Paul to the Asia Minor up to Iran. Yeah, I mean if you study the history, you find that they went up to Iran. Yeah, Persian, but of course were not as successful as they were in the Asia Minor, yeah. And of course, in the North Africa, in the whole Europe, they were very successful, and even to the UK, yeah, to Britain, yeah, um, and then of course in Europe, yeah. But then in in the 16th century. Yeah, in the 16th century, something happened in the course of uh, history, especially between uh, Catholicism and Islam, because that Islam was also or is also, when I refer to that timeline, a missionary religion, and you know that from the um, Prophet Muhammad born in uh, letter 72. Uh, when was Prophet Muhammad? Prophet Muhammad's born 657, right? Is it? 571. Sorry, 571 to 62. Okay. No. Sorry, my battery is exhaust. Okay, now I hope you can hear me clearly. Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Sorry you missed me because my battery, I didn't notice that the cable is not connected to the computer. Now it is connected. I think I will get the link in a few minutes. All right. So where were we just now? Sorry about that. So I was talking about the missionary, right? Yeah, the missionary activities during the 16th century. Yeah, during the 16th century, because of the competition between the Catholic missionary with the Muslims. We know that Muslims have been doing da'wah from the 7th century. From the 7th century until, of course, until today. But Muslims are very successful to the extent that Muslims managed to get to enlarge its territory, and enhance its followers. Yeah? Uh, until when was that? Yeah, until 12 centuries. Yeah, till 12 centuries, and we were stopped when Muslims tried to penetrate into France. We were stopped at Toulouse, yeah, if I'm not mistaken. Florence or Toulouse, the name of that place. So the missionaries stopped at that point. Dakwah stopped at that point, but by that time already Muslims were all over the world, including in China, including in um, Asian, the Asian continent. So you know what happened, that the Catholic Church in the 15th century started to what you call that, started to wake up again, in the sense that the Catholic Church started to send people to all parts of the world to um, to bring more people to become Catholics, Christian. If you remember, you learn in history the emergence of Portuguese in Malacca, yeah? The emergence of the Dutch in Indonesia, and maybe we are not so much familiar with the history of Portuguese in China, with the history of Portuguese in China, in Japan, yeah, and also the Spanish missionary in Philippines, to the extent that today we see that the Spanish, that Philippines became a Christian country. These were actually due to the missionary activities done by the Catholic Church. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say here is that the missionary activities were very instrumental in disseminating Catholicism. Yeah. But then Paul F. Nitter said even up to 20th century, missionary were not successful in making all people becoming Christian. Yeah. And he thought, the reason for that failure is because of exclusivism. So he said that regardless of the missionary activities done by exclusivism has deterred people from becoming Christianity, and the Catholic Church or the Protestant churches, the Christians in general should review their position, because they have been very exclusive from day one. The religion will emerge in the history, right? Can you give me a second, because I want to go back to my laptop, because I hope to record the session on the laptop. Yeah. Now I'm using my mobile. I'm afraid that I don't know whether it will continue with the recording or it is not. So give me, this call is being recorded. Give me 1 second. I go back to this one so I can stop my laptop. Sorry, my handphone. Otherwise, it will be echo. Okay, let me
go out from my mobile for a while.
All right. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, madam.
Yes,
Alhamdulillah.
madam.
So sorry about the interruptions. It was my fault actually. I didn't notice that the battery is not connected, even though it is already in my laptop. I already switched on the plug, but sometimes I don't know. Maybe the port is not working well. I need to adjust. Okay, so and with the missionary and with the cause of his exclusive doctrine in Catholicism. Now we go to the external reason. Yeah. So remember, I'm talking about the reason for the emergence of pluralism. There are two. One is internal, depending, refers to the doctrine, and secondly refers to the missionary activities. I've been doing the discussion on missionary in a very quick manner because I don't want to drag our discussion on this. Okay, now external reason. Okay, if you have watched my lecture, maybe you can help to highlight what was the external reason. I hope there are people watching the video clip. Yeah, what was the external? Yes, globalization. Good, thank you, Amna. Another reason?
Scientific study
Yeah.
of religion.
Thank you very much. Scientific study of religion. Yeah, scientific study of religion. For those who are familiar with what happened in the Western history, especially with the emergence of modernity, the period of modernity that started off in the 16th century, marked by Descartes in the 15th century, who said that I think, therefore I am. Have you heard of this? Cogito ergo sum? I think that, therefore I am. Descartes was a father of enlightenment. Yeah, interesting, yeah? In Christianity, when you free your uh, reasoning, yeah, when you're free your experience from the dictation of revelation, you become enlightened. Can you follow me or not? This is how it is in the course of Christian history. Yeah? When you free your mind, you free your experience from the revelation, from the dictation of revelation, then only you are enlightened. Why I'm saying so? Because Descartes were actually looking for answers to his um, existence. He has an existential problem. How do I explain my existence? Of course, if he refers to the Bible, can he find the answer? What do you think? If Descartes, a French philosopher, try to find the answer to his existence from the Bible, will he find the answer? What is your opinion? Hey, come on. Are you sleeping, people? Do you think he will be able to find the answer to his existence? Cepat, try. Guess. Syazwan mana? Selalu Syazwan yang banyak cakap ni. Asim is our PG student, right? Asim, are you around? Let's do some intellectual thinking. Where are you? Are you around or not? Anyone? Asim, Madam, can you repeat your question? Okay, his existence, yeah. And after much deliberation and thinking exercise, he found the answer to his existence. He said, Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Yeah. So, if he tried to find the answer to his question of existence in the Bible, will he be able to find the answer? I will not move until one of you help to answer this. Right. I'm not sure, but probably. Okay, why? Why? Okay lah, tak apalah. Probably ke apa kan? Why? Why you think in the 17th century, Descartes question about his existence, and I said that I'll ask you if you go to the Bible. Okay, what Bible say about human existence? Huh? You have studied, you have taken study of religion 1, kan? What the Bible teach about human existence? Who was the first man? Who created man? What the Bible says about the creation of man? Come, connect the dots. What the Bible say about the creation of man? Who created man? Hey, are you people sleeping or what? Someone please answer me. I hope I'm not alone here. There are 40 of you. Masya Allah, no one of you are responding. What happened? Cepat. Tak boleh nak jawab eh. Susah kan soalan ni. Alif, cepat. Alif, try to answer my question. I'm checking on you, therefore I'm afraid I don't know. I don't know. Astaghfirullahaladzim. Allah Akbar. Kelakar. Takkan lagi tak tahu Bible kata apa with regard to human existence. What did Genesis say about human existence? Who created man? Who was the first man in the Bible?
Adam and Eve.
Adam. Betul lah. Adam alaihissalam. That was the answer to human existence in the Bible. God creates man. He wanted to do or depends on his intellectual exercise. Tak perasan lagi. So Descartes mark a great changes in Christianity because of course if he wants to find the answer in the Bible, he will be able to find the answer to his existence, but he refrained from doing that because the traditions in Christianity or in Catholicism for that matter were not conducive for the Christians to think. They were taught to listen to the church. Everything is dictated by the church. Man is not free to think in the sense that the scripture that they were reading did not help them to think. So Descartes wants to go out from this culture. He wanted a thinking culture. And then when he said cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am, it marked another change in the Western Christian experience that, you know, for the first time in history, the thinker, the so-called Christian thinker, started to realize that they can explore more answers to human problems only by thinking, not necessarily by the dictation of scripture. Inilah yang you all belajar dalam Western philosophy, isn't it? Nanti saya tanya Dr. Isyam, apa yang dia ajar you all? So, that's why Descartes was called as the father of enlightenment. Enlightenment. Bila kita fikir, then only we know that we are enlightened. Apa? Sebelum ni Bible never enlighten them? No, because that's how modern scholars depicted the way they found the miraculous, if I'm using this word, the interesting road of human thinking, that man can find answers to his questions only with thinking. And that's how, modern philosophy, modernism and secularism, started to admire this idea, adopt this idea and embark into this idea to the extent that, at one point of time in the 18th century, Max Muller, 18 something, so 19th century, Frederick Max Muller introduced comparative religion and say that from now on we do comparative religion purely away from theology, purely away from the dictation of the religious school. It has to be very scientific, it has to be very human oriented, reasoning oriented, empirical oriented. So you see, we have people like Descartes, the father of enlightenment, to tell the Christians that, look, you have to use your mind, then only you can progress. Then we have people like John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, Auguste Comte, who add to that method, saying that, oh, we cannot only rely on human reasoning, we have also to rely on human experience. Our senses are very useful in telling us about the truth, about comprehending reality, understanding reality. Yeah. And then, how modernity propagated that knowledge is only by the virtue of reasoning and human experience, no other than the two. So revelation was discarded as the source of knowledge. And then in the 19th century, Max Muller came and, Frederick Max Muller came and introduced that from now on we should learn religion away from revelation, because when you talk about revelation, it is bias. And he started to say, he who knows one knows none. This is cynical to Catholicism, to Christianity at large, because, extra ecclesia mula selalu stop people from learning other religions. So the emergence of the study of religions in the 19th century has opened up Christianity into the wonders of other religions, and that's why you find during that time there were a lot of works studying the sacred texts of other religions, studying other religions, Mircea Eliade, and even before that, Emily Durkheim started to venture into the study of the Aborigines, to the orang asli, to the people living in the remote jungle. Why? Just they wanted to know about other religions who have never been ventured before by the Christians, just because of the doctrine of extra ecclesia malus, of the five solas, that stop them from understanding people of other religions. Yeah. So actually the emergence of scientific study of religion in the 19th century has opened up ways for the Christians to liberate themselves, to open up themselves to the concept of the truth prevalence in other religions. Do you follow me or not? Hmm? So you see, what is happening in the Western context in the past have greatly influenced the way people perceive religion, including Muslims. Yeah, even though actually we Muslims, in the 7th century, Prophet Muhammad SAW died in 632. He was born 571. So right after the journeys of Prophet Muhammad SAW, you know how the Muslims ventured into the study of the Quran, the study of the Hadith, and scientific studies without having to abandon revelation altogether, right? Isn't it? Muslim scholars have been an excellent scientists at the same time, and never that the science fail Muslims to recognize Allah, isn't it? Because we use revelation mixed to reasoning and experience. That's knowledge to us. And you see that Muslim scholars also as early as in the 7th century have studied other religions. There were works done by Muslims in the 7th century that started to discuss about the faith of other religions. Yeah, even Imam Al-Ghazali was very critical of other religions, but he studied Christianity. Ibn Hazm, Shahristani, Al-Biruni, who else? Abu Isa Al-Warraq, and who else? I cannot recall the name now.
Arabic.
In Arabic, a sophistic approach to other religions. Yeah. So, Muslim scholars have started venturing into other religions as early as 7th century and thriving, the study thriving in the 10th and 11th century. Yeah. Uh, so, and it did not make Muslims less Muslims. It did not make Al-Biruni less Muslims. You know what I mean? Because Muslims have been consistently using revelation, reasoning, and experience as sources of knowledge. And these are all scientific, but for the Christians, it's different experience altogether. And that's why they changed to the extreme in the 15th, 16th century, started to look at uh, to admire the power of reasoning and the power of human experience because they were not trained in the tradition. I mean, the intellectual tradition, the Christian intellectual tradition were not unlike the intellectual tradition within the Muslim experience. And you see how, modernism, postmodernism today were developed also away from the religious tradition. This continue in the Western universities. If you're somebody doing, religious studies, uh, will not be able to integrate them in the scientific or science faculties or humanities faculties. Do you notice that or not? Hmm? So religion is something else, and your professional endeavor, your technical studies is something else. And this is why IIUM is here, because in IIUM we do not see religion and science as contradictory to each other or as separated lah, at least even if you don't call it contradictory. But we integrate between science and revelation. And that's why also in humanity studies, we integrate. That's why our kuliah of Islamic reveal knowledge and human sciences. We integrate because you cannot just study human using your reasoning and using your experience without really understanding what the Quran, what the Hadith says about human. For you to understand man, you have first of all to understand what the Quran says about man, what the Hadith says about man. And then only you study the phenomena. And then only you will be able to understand if this phenomena is in accordance with the Quran and Hadith or is wrong. Isn't that how the way we do it in this university? Yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you is the history of Christianity at a certain point of time that bring about a lot of changes in the way the Christians, the Western Christians look at things, especially during the modern era, and especially with regard to religious pluralism, how later scientists, in this case, scholar of religion, because John Hick was originally a theologian, and then became a philosopher of religion, try to understand the existence of other religions away from the way it is explained in Christianity. Yeah, you will be fascinated in the way John Hick um, maneuver his philosophy, because he started off as a priest, as a theologian, and then and his journey as a philosopher of religion, not as a theologian. You see, because he was not well received by the theologian, by the theological school, even by the churches. He was once called as deviant, heterodox, bid'ah, not only bid'ah, ajaran sesat. You see, that's how in the Christian experience. So, the emergence of scientific study of religion has also facilitated religious pluralism. Yeah. And then secondly, because of globalization. Yeah. Globalization, if you make a thorough study, you will find that many modern scholars regard globalization as an extension of Western imperialism. Look for what Western imperialism means. Yeah? Another, phase of Western extension to the mind of the people, yeah, to the way of living of the people, to the culture, to the norms, to the values, to the traditions of the people. There is some truth in it. So you see now we go to Starbucks, yeah, we eat KFC, we eat McDonald's, kan? We have all these lavish, expensive cafe kan in Malaysia. This is part of Western imperialism. We are using Grab, this economic imperialism. Last time we were talking about Uber, and people condemning Uber as another extension of imperialism. Yeah, imperialism is actually a form of colonialism, but it's more penetrative to the values, to the economies, to the lifestyle of the people. More than physical colonization. Very interesting to hear this. And globalization has made it possible for people of different religions to start recognizing each other, to start being aware of the presence and the existence of each other, to start talking about coexistence. When in the past this may not be very much of the debate, but in the 20th century, when globalization emerged, you find mobility become easier. The world is shrinking because we can be in different parts of the world in a day. Somebody wrote that you can take your breakfast in Japan and have your lunch in the US or dinner in the US. Yeah, at the same day. Of course, you have to add or minus the different time, yeah, the different time when you travel to US, yeah? But you can have that in a day. And remember the case of Azlina Jailani, this uh, Lina Joy, when she left Islam. Yeah, what happened to this case? Yeah, this case, upon the pronouncement from the court, it immediately reached international knowledge or audience. Why? Because during her time there was internet and there was all these blogs and social media. So look at my son. So all these blogs and social media, they were all reporting what happened in Malaysia. So religious issues in Malaysia has become a global issue. So Malaysia was condemned by the global society, even until today, because Malaysia was, charged as not giving freedom of religion, for stopping Azlina Jalani or Lina Joy from converting to Christianity. Mm. And even until today, Malaysia has been criticized as one of the countries that do not offer religious freedom because we stop Muslims from converting to other religions. We take legal approach to curb the Muslims from converting to other religions. And that's the reason why you found that the debates on religious pluralism started to emerge in Malaysia, especially after the speech of one ex-deputy prime minister in the London School of Economics. I think that was in 2010, if I'm not mistaken. When he promotes the idea of religious pluralism, and because he was once the leaders of Malaysia affiliated to one political party, and so that become a political issue in Malaysia. Whether you are in support of religious pluralism or whether you are against religious pluralism, it means that you are subscribed to certain political view. And that's how Malaysians become trapped into this uh, political issues, whereas originally religious pluralism was not a political issue. It was a question of uh, religious doctrine, a dilemma in religious doctrine faced by the Christians, but then become a problem for everybody today lah. Like if you are not a supporter of religious pluralism, you will be regarded as exclusive. Huh? You'll be regarded as extremist. You will be regarded as intolerant, so on and so forth. Yeah, and this is why we offer this course, because we want to, our students to be learned. Even though you learn other religions, yeah, but you have to be very cautious about how this philosophy tried to penetrate into interreligious dialogue, into the way we understand the existence of other religions. Hopefully that even though you study religion, but you do not abandon what the Quran says about the truth. Yeah, we will do this at the end of the semester, 3, 4 last classes, because you're going to talk about how Islam perceive others, and criticize religious pluralism. Even at the very beginning of the classes pun, I have given you a broader perspective of how Tawheed explain to us or help us Muslims to understand the existence of other religions, isn't it? Yeah. So now I'm bringing you to how the Christians, how the Christians were facing a lot of dilemma in comprehending the existence of other religions just because of the doctrine that they employ, uh, or they have been taught to them for a very long time. Until there come a time when someone started to, to figure out that, reasoning can help men to solve a lot of problems, and because of that, um, the role of religion or the role of revelation was suspended from the Western intellectual tradition. Yeah? And bring about scientific approach even in the study of religion, namely in comparative religion. So whether you notice or not, at our department, yeah, we name our department Usuluddin in comparative religion, where we study religion, yeah, Usuluddin, the fundamentals of religion, Islam, yeah, as well as comparative religion. So we integrate between revelation and also modern sciences, in the sense that it's not that we want to succumb to the Western context in understanding the role of human reasoning, the role of human experience, but because we want our students to learn that you cannot you cannot study other religions if you don't study Islam. In the Islamic intellectual tradition, it is essential for you to understand your religion first before you study other, because that is how uh, the discipline of comparative religion is developed. Yeah? You go to academia, edu, you will find my articles. I've been doing research on the contribution of Kalam in the study of religion, whereby Muslims develop so-called comparative religion in Usuluddin. In comparison to the Western experience, yeah, they develop comparative religion away from the study of theology. But we do it together with the study of Christianity. That makes us different from other religions or from other intellectual traditions, especially in the Western uh, context. Yeah? Alright, so dear students, I think I've taken a lot of time to discuss about the reasons for the emergence of comparative of religious pluralism, to the extent that I am telling you why we have our departments and why we offer religious pluralism, because we want to you to be aware of the certain possibilities that will happen uh, if you understand or if you study religion without having firmer foundation or background, in religion. So na'udzubillah min zalik. So next class I will discuss with you. I think I have already uploaded the video clip on secular humanism. I remember I was talking about Descartes just now, right? And I was talking about Thomas Hobbes, August Comte, so on and so forth. Right? So these people who have brought the intellectual tradition into new way, no, that is away from religion, yeah? And this has marked, yeah, the trends within the Western intellectual tradition. Yeah? That they study human phenomena away from religion. Yeah? Now, when the body of knowledge is departed or has been departed from the radar of religion, what would be the ultimate that they look for? And when we study religion, the ultimate that we look for is the truth, right? God lah. God as the ultimate truth. Tapi when you discard religion, what will be your ultimate truth? What will be the ultimate truth? When you study human phenomenon, when you study the nature, what you look for? Hmm? And what will be the resources that you need to help you to understand the nature, to understand man when you have discarded religion as one of the sources of knowledge. So we are going to discuss this in secular humanism, and I will explain to you why secular humanism become the firm foundation for religious pluralism. Alright? Okay class, so I think that's about it. I hope I managed to interest you, yeah, about our next lecture, and hopefully you can also watch my lecture, because of course I cannot cover everything in a single meeting. Yeah, you need to watch my lecture. Maybe there are some items that I've left without my noticing it. You may find that in my lecture. And please do not hesitate to ask in the Google Classroom. Yeah, so everybody else can benefit from your question. Since you have been very quiet in class, yeah, I recommend that you ask in the Google Classroom. Hopefully, we can learn from each other. Yeah? Alright, so I think that's about it. Any question before I leave? I take that as no questions. You people are happy, yeah, I think. Thank you, Liana. Okay. All the best to your assignments and group assignments. Inshallah, I will see you next Tuesday. We are going to discuss secular humanism. Alright, class. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, madam.
Okay.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, madam.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, madam.
Okay.